Welcome, everyone, to Living the Bella Vida podcast. I'm Erin Schmidt, CEO and editor-in-chief of Bella Vida Magazine. And I want everyone to experience living a beautiful life. So each week, I'm going to bring you conversations that will inspire you, motivate you, and also entertain you. I'm so honored today that my guest is the one and only Eric Roberts. Eric is a Hollywood icon. He's part of a family legacy of incredibly talented actors, and he's been an actor since he was very young. He's an Academy Award and Golden Globe nominee with over 700 features under his belt. And it's also my great pleasure to have his wife, Eliza Roberts, with him. And she's also a very talented actress in her own right. And so I'm so excited to have you both here today. And welcome. Thanks for joining me.
It's great to be with you.
I was going to say, I love that, Eliza, you've just been so wonderful helping me today and getting this all squared away. And I knew I was going to love you because you're a redhead. So I knew you'd be awesome.
Thank you.
It's really incredible that you guys have been married over 30 years, which is quite a feat in Hollywood. So, tell me, I know a little bit about how you guys met, but it's always nice to hear and how your relationship has maybe evolved, and now you have grandkids, which is exciting. So, tell us a little bit about that.
After you.
Great. To be married a long time, no matter what business or what world you're in, is a feat. It's quite something. And philosophically, I think marriages have a lifetime, and it's some short, some longer. So hopefully you segue into a friendship if it stops being marriage. But there is something really amazing that happens that, of course, you can't know until you experience it when it's been this long, where you just look up and you're like, wait, are we at the over half our lives point?
Right.
There's really something very profound about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we met randomly, but on the other hand, there were a million things that almost brought us together in all the years prior, almost since birth. I mean, really,
Wow.
for a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that something? But now being this,
Yeah.
you look at other married couples differently. Instead of looking at married couples and being like, that can't be real, or I wonder what's really going on, or aren't they tired of each other, or whenever we did the announcement. Instead, you look and you believe it because ours is believable. So
Mhm.
it's kind of a nice way to float through.
I love
it.
No, that was good.
Okay.
Well, I know it is something, marriage is something that evolves, right?
Yes, it does.
As you're getting older and, grandkids, there's so many different milestones while you're married to someone. It's like, wow, okay, now we share this together.
When you're with the same person all day, every day, for thousands of days, you
Yeah.
realize that they are as much you as you are them, and you become so interwoven, and so you think for each other, you talk for each other, you dress for each other, and you don't mean to, it just happens, and when it goes well, it's a nice thing.
Yes, it is. I can attest to that. I'm very happily married, and my husband Brady. Hi. So, and you've both had a long career, but Eric, wow, didn't you start acting when you were like 5 years old? Your father was also like an acting coach.
I did my first play at 4. I did my first TV series at 8. I did my first movie at 21. And but it was all very normal up until they took film away. And then we had digital. So everybody who had a camera became their own studio. So they started calling me director. And in the mid '90s, the mid to late '90s, 95, 6 or 7, my wife comes to me and says, "Honey, we're getting 30 to 50 offers every single day from all over the world. Do you want to go do this?" I said, well, yeah,
That's
for
how you have 700 features. Wow, that's incredible. I
so
know, and so one of the films that I do wanna ask you about is Tacoma. You shot that with Jagish and Antonio Lujak, who I also had on the podcast recently. Um, your character in that is a character you play a lot. You play a lot of antagonists, and you do it extremely well. But that character, I was struck that you really couldn't move. You couldn't use physicality because for most of the film, you were stuck in a hospital bed. I won't say why. But I mean, how did that affect your performance and how you prepared for that role?
it does. Honestly, to be perfectly candid about it, it makes it easier because I have less to think about. I have less to have to worry about. I have less to have to remember. I'm just in a bed,
Mm,
and
yeah.
so I
Yeah,
like
you don't have to hit your mark. You're already on it.
everybody kind of dances around you when you're in a hospital bed. So it's kind of everybody
Right.
else's problem. So it
Yeah.
actually makes it easier, and it actually makes it much less stressful.
Well, you did a fantastic job as always, and I was talking with Jagish about the pizza scene. We won't say too much, but I said, Eric put his own spin on that and made it extra disgusting and like, dude, like you didn't just like go like this. You're like, and you felt for the other guy in the scene because you're just like, dude, wow. Ugh." So I hope people will go and see Tacoma.
Don't give it
No,
away.
she didn't give anything away, but it would make me curious.
Yes, it's like pizza. Why would you? But yes, very funny scene, but also like, whoa, disgusting and cruel. And you do a very good job of interweaving a lot of emotion into your roles.
Cruelty is the most fun, because
It's not
you
real.
get to be really awful, and then everybody gets, and then it's a cut, and everybody gets to laugh. So it's like, oh,
Right.
fun. So
'Cause they
what
know you're the opposite of that.
fun, movie cruelty is the most fun cruelty in the world because it's not real, but you can act so intense, and then call it cut.
You're right.
Fine.
Absolutely, and, I know everyone asks you about Runaway Train and Star 80, but, I mean, I'll be honest, I hadn't seen that movie yet, when I was younger. I was about 10 when it came out, my parents were very straight-laced and didn't let me watch rated R movies. In fact, anytime nudity would come on the camera, my mom would stand in front of the TV, like, she was that kind of mom. But that role in particular is so astonishing because I mean, it's such a famous story and it was all over the news. And so everyone knew the ending before they went to see the movie. And you somehow managed to make that character almost likable, even though he was, you know what I mean? Like you were likable, you were underhanded, you were just creepy and then like the ending is so gruesome. How did you prepare for that role? And then was it hard getting out of character? Is it ever hard to get out of character sometimes with those kind of really difficult roles?
Okay, getting out of that particular character, Paul Snyder in Star 80, it's like taking off a really ugly suit. You're relieved. But
I bet.
yeah, those kinds of parts, if you have a good leader, and I had Bob Fosse, if you have a good leader, you don't have to be scared about overdoing it or missing it because he will guide you. And I had that. And it's the kind of part that's easy to overplay. So you have to be careful. You have to go right up overplaying it, but not go over. You have to, because he was too much. So you have to push reality, but you can't be ridiculous. You just have to make it embarrassing, and so we he was my thermometer, Bob Fosse. He told me how hot or how cold to be and how to do it, and he honestly guided me. He's responsible for that performance. And I was just his tool. And I'm not a bad tool, but he was a great director. And so we had a lot of fun together.
That's very humble of you. I I don't think any old actor could have done the job you did in that film,
Well,
so but
don't get me wrong,
that's
I am my
that's
biggest fan.
great.
But without him, that would not have happened. Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, though, for sure, because you need somebody who's guiding you through that, because I could see where you could take it overboard, and then he would be just, like,
a
such a
joke.
monster throughout the film, right?
Right.
And same with Runaway Train. Wow, that performance, I was so struck by how tight it was, and how all of the characters evolved in that film. You and John Voight, but especially your character, right? And because similar, you're kind of this, sociopath, but a charming sociopath. And, you know, it just, I was like, wow, how come I hadn't seen this sooner? And with that role in particular, um, did you guys have a long time to shoot it? Because it doesn't seem like you had a lot of places to go. It was just like you're stuck in this box together and it's hurtling toward disaster. Um, what do you remember about shooting that film and
Well, we
kind
had
of
longer
working
than
with
we
those?
expected to have because we were supposed to shoot it in Montana, and we arrived in
Mm.
Montana, and it thawed. All the snow melted. It was around Valentine's Day, and all the snow was gone. So we sat there for 5, 7 days, hoping it would get cold again, and it was not going to get cold again. So he said, so the producer said, "Look, it takes place in Alaska. Let's go to Alaska." So they shipped the whole cast, the whole crew to Anchorage, Alaska, and we stayed at a great skiers, really fun. But all day long, they would drive us half an hour by car, and then we get on this train where we had this track for 33 days. We had this track, just our track. And we only had it for 33 days. So we had to shoot the movie, all the train stuff in like 33 days. And it was killer. And we worked 6-day weeks, and it was hard and not fun. The only thing that
Freezing cold, I'm sure.
freezes cold when that
Yeah.
train's rolling, it's only going about 40 miles an hour. But when it's rolling, it's way below zero if you're outside. And we're outside that train a lot. And
Yeah, I know.
John Voight was so good to me. He was like an older brother. He took really good care of me.
Mm,
But he pretty much always stayed in character, and because he's a
wow.
actor, and
That's scary. His character is really cruel in the movie and not fun.
so much in the movie, Eric the actor had to be John's friend. So it
Yeah,
was,
right. I
it was
know. Yeah, you're like, "I look up to you, dude. Why are you being such a jerk to me?" Wow. Yeah,
I
intense
loved
film.
working with him though. In
I
fact,
bet.
he was my favorite actor to work with up to that point, up till I got to work with my wife about 10 years later. No, true story. Yeah. He was my favorite
Aw,
actor up until her, and then she became my favorite actor to work with.
aw. Well, and you guys work together all the time, which is
Yeah.
amazing, and I'm so
Well,
glad she joined us.
working with my wife is like a gift because my wife is a great,
Aw.
and my wife is also my wife. So it's fun.
Oh, that's so great. You guys are so close, and it's very easy to see in the pictures you guys have on red carpets and other places, so it's amazing. That's the other thing I was gonna ask too. Do you guys travel together everywhere that you're shooting? And
We used to always go everywhere together. That's how you stay married. You go everywhere together.
yeah,
But about 10, 12 years ago, she started waving goodbye. Have a good trip, honey. And so only if there are long trips does she come along.
right.
If they're 3 to 5 days, I'm on my own.
Well, I can understand that. Traveling can be a bear after a while. You've been very open about your past struggles with addictions and overcoming those, and I know Eliza was really strong in helping you with that. what do you feel that maybe you learned about yourself in, in just life in general, overcoming those issues?
Well, the to put it all in a nutshell, you learn you are mortal. You come to terms with your mortality, and you respect the fact you're only here for a minute. So why waste the time you're given for free? And when you come to that
Nice.
understanding in a calm way, then you can calmly stop hurting yourself, stop being so
Right.
self-destructive, and start giving. And you know, my wife, I'm smothered with love and care by this woman. So I
Aw.
reciprocate. I reciprocate because I should and because it's fun. And you just learn that as you realize, oh, why you are self-destructive. Once you understand that, then you just undo it, and you undo it with love. The Beatles said it best: all you need is love, and when you have it
Yep.
honestly, you're going to be okay.
Yep. Love is the answer, right? Absolutely. I think that anyone who's struggling with addictions of any kind, that if you don't have a strong support system around you, it's going to be much, much harder, right? And that's why AA and NA exist,
Well, as
so that you can pull yourself out.
all become drug addicts because we feel lonely, we feel
Right.
alone, we feel left. So
Mhm.
when you come out of that, it's to learn how not to feel that way, and you have to make as much effort as everything around you makes for you. You have to make for it. So it's a two-way street, but you learn how to
Right.
operate that way, and it becomes your life, and it
Right.
becomes a life that's worth sharing.
Right. Absolutely. That's wonderful. And what advice or what would you say to someone maybe that's listening that is struggling with an addiction right now who is watching this?
I would tell them to call my wife.
Well, if they cannot do that,
That's honestly half true. But I turn to my wife with with this question because I know she'll say it better than me. So, what do you say to someone who is struggling, darling?
Um, I think that it really, it's very easy to term that self-destructive, but it's actually a control thing. It's almost as if we think we can turn the valve on our time. We can decide when we're going to go out, how we're going to go out, how we're going to be thought of. We can't, but we can't at all. But I think the randomness of it, and the idea of surprise and the unexpected is very scary. And people, it's some things are very hard to get. Like true joy, is not easy to get. Something big has to happen. Plus, you have to have your stuff together inside. Um, Things that make us sad are almost unbearable sometimes. So when you kind of choose this kind of microcosm of highs and lows, you can shut all the rest of that out. And people really do that from fear. But I think if somebody who's using could really realize they're making all the things they're trying to escape, they're making them worse. They're making them bigger. They're making themselves more vulnerable to pain, um, and less available for joy. If whatever it is that finally turns that light bulb on in your head, that's what you should be looking for. There is no upside. It's like weapons.
Mhm.
No upside.
Right,
Ultimately,
there's only a downside.
that's it.
Yep. Momentary forgetting your problems and then waking up to find you have 10 times the problems because of what you just did, right?
Exactly.
I know, yeah, it's one of those things that I think Hollywood, unfortunately, has sucked a lot of people into,
Yeah.
addictions and a lot in many different forms, right?
Yep.
And, Hollywood has changed a lot, as
No,
you were saying in the beginning that No, you don't think it has?
no,
Oh, it
I
has.
was
I
agreeing.
agree.
Has it
Oh,
ever?
yeah, boy, yeah, and like you said, anyone with a phone can be an actor now, almost. So, what breaking into Hollywood in the major motion pictures, at least, is such a daunting task. Do you have any advice or words of encouragement for those looking to break into Hollywood or acting?
Well, I'm asked this every day on the street, at the gym, everywhere I go. I'm asked this at least once, 2, 3, 4 times a day. And I always say the same thing. Hey, have you got an Actors Access page? You don't get one, start there. And that's what I always say to people I don't know very quickly, because I don't have time to give everybody a half an hour about how to do it. But it's
Right.
you start with that, but you have to get representation. Although representation is not what it used to be, because we all have access to each other now. So
Yeah.
so it's a whole different world. And if I were gonna be kind to any actor about what to do, once again, I would say, talk to my wife, because she knows everybody who does everything in our industry and why, and they all know her.
Yeah, you need a good teammate, right? Somebody that's out there promoting you. Well, and I think, looking at your career, it didn't happen overnight for you either. You have to work at it. You have to accept that you might not get every role, and that's okay.
Every actor in the end result will have lost lots of roles, but I was very lucky. I became an international
Yeah.
movie star at 21 years old, and so
Yeah,
I
right.
the world was my cake, and I got to eat it, and it was and it was fun, and it is
Yeah,
fun. It's
right.
still that way. I go to work probably 150 days a year every year. And a couple of years now that have passed, I've gone to work probably 250 days a year. So it's I'm one of the lucky ones. We
Yeah.
everybody who had a camera, became a studio, and they all started calling me. I
I
just
know, right?
got lucky, and it's not that
That's
I'm
great.
better or worse or like that different. I'm just liked by a lot of people I didn't know about, and so
Mhm.
I'm thanking them.
That's great. And finally, because this is the Living a Bella Vita podcast, I always ask my guests, how do you define living a beautiful life? And you can both answer that if you want, if it's different.
Well, my wife will have something very, very poetic to say, I'm sure. But life is a life where our kids and our grandkids feel safe and
Right.
are right to feel safe. If we can pass that on, that place, that feeling, that affection, that understanding, then we've done well.
Absolutely. That's beautiful.
I think that if we can dispel the whole idea of success and failure, of who's a winner, who's a loser, there's always been kind of abuse as entertainment, from the gladiators to the competition shows now. Um, and it's the opposite of kindness. And I think it makes people really doubt their purpose and their right to be here. And I think, um, you know, that the fundamentals of, unfortunately, the whole thing about success, wealth, status, recognizability, fame, all of that, it really needs to go. Our friend David Duchovny is doing a podcast called Fail Better, which is actually taken from Samuel.
Nice.
But you
Yeah.
know, the fact is, all of us lose in the most fundamental way, the thing we fight our whole lives, which is the fact that
Mhm.
one day we're not going to be here anymore. And I think that people grab
Yeah.
so hard some kind of permanence that isn't real, and they miss the whole point in doing that.
Mhm.
So I think that, if you
Right.
look, you have
Right.
grandkids, we have grandkids, you look into the eyes of these children, um, and you see the truth, which is we're really only here to be gentle and kind to each other. That there doesn't need to be
Right.
anything else. That everything would
Right.
spread beautifully right from there. That would be a beautiful life.
I love that answer. You're right. That was a great answer.
Yeah, that's why I married her. She
Yeah,
had all the good answers.
yeah. If you're a good human, I think you are a success in life. Because as you both know, probably all too well, the people who are out there, especially in Hollywood, who are super successful, they're not always good humans. So, at the end of their life, like a lot of very wealthy billionaires, et cetera, they look back and go, does it really matter that I made all that movie and movie success, or that
Right.
drove 10 cars, or, had lots and lots of money? What matters is who's around you and the life legacy that you leave. And
Yep.
I think what you both have left behind, or leaving behind, with the work that you're doing and the love that you're sharing, is wonderful. So it's been such a pleasure having you both here. So nice meeting you both.
Thanks
Maybe
for having
you'll
me.
give me. Yes, thank you. And maybe you'll give me the pleasure of having you back when your memoir comes out. I know you talked about it a little bit on social
Okay.
media, so it's not that big a secret. But thank you both. And this has been a Bella Vida podcast with Erin Schmidt. Thank you, Eric Roberts and Eliza Roberts. Be sure to check out Tacoma, which just released on streaming. You can watch it, and Eric's role in the movie is fabulous. Make sure you subscribe and like down below, and tell Eric and Eliza how much you love them and the movies that he's been in. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.